Hi everyone, I'm William, developer at Bite Me Games, and today I wanted to bring you guys along how we work together as a team here, as well as provide you some pointers about how you can work efficiently in a small team. Don't click off though if you're a solo indie developer, as some of these topics we will cover will also apply to you, and you may pick up a partner during your game dev journey, who knows. Keep in mind, all of this is how we work Agile here. And whilst the main concepts will probably apply to you, the exact methods we use can differ depending on your size and capabilities. Don't worry though, we will try and list alternatives for everything as well. To begin with, what do we mean when we say working Agile in small teams? Well, Agile is a way of project management that originally got its roots in traditional software development. Back in the old days, projects were done on a waterfall approach. Think of it like creating a house. First, an architect designs a house, how it looks, and so on. Then a general contractor will look at the design, see the required roles, and give you a price that is quite fixed. Then work starts on your house, everyone starts laying the bricks, wiring electricity, plumbing, and painting the house. Then, a few months later you get a call, the house is done, you can come and get your keys. During the process of this house being built, you had little to say in regard to changing anything. After all, the original designs have been made by now and can't be altered anymore. You also don't have as much of a view of how your house will actually look until the very end when it's actually there. Now, for making a house, this approach isn't so bad. You probably won't change much along the way, but for something like software, the customer usually will not be happy with how the UI looks, or it won't have correct functionality, or it will not be like how he originally envisioned it all those months ago. Maybe he just changed his mind. This is where Agile comes in. Instead of just designing a document in the beginning of the project with the customer and then delivering a finished product months later, we will now involve the end user more into the project. We focus on working iteratively, meeting up with the customer for 2 weeks or months, for example, and showing them the current version of the product, after which you can give feedback, and changing the entire application isn't necessary. So we can see Agile as the idea of how we want to manage our project, whereas Scrum is the actual methodology. It's a framework that describes how you should work on your project. Scrum brings certain terms into the project like a sprint planning, daily stand-ups, and sprint reviews. We will cover all of these things in just a bit once we apply Scrum towards how we work here at Bite Me Games. This only covers the tip of the iceberg surrounding Agile and Scrum though, so be sure to also check out the blog post linked in the description down below, where we cover all of this deeper with some more examples and tips. In the Scrum methodology, a sprint can be seen as a single iteration. These usually last between 2 and 6 weeks, depending on when you would interact with the customer. We may not have a customer here at Bite Me Games, but instead we align our sprint to our monthly devlog series, as here we really showcase our progress over the past month. But how do we know what to work on during the sprint? At the start of every sprint, which usually is a bit before we record our devlog video, the team gets together and we discuss the features we would love to get done this month, the next month. These are the main things we usually talk about at the end of our devlog videos if you haven't seen them yet. Our main goal during the sprint is then to get as much of these goals done as possible. Probably the biggest thing is to have some sort of issue tracking, preferably in a Kanban board. We use GitLab for tracking our issues, as we already utilized it for our version control and DevOps pipeline. If you don't know what a DevOps pipeline is, I'd recommend checking out our recent video about it as well, hosted by our dear CEO. Since we track our issues in GitLab, we can also easily link an issue to a branch. If GitLab doesn't fit your needs, there are plenty of other Kanban solutions out there, such as Trello, Atlassian, Asana or MasterTrack. But what should you put on your boards? This is where backlog planning comes in. This is when the teams come together for an hour or so and we just talk about everything that has to be done for a game. Then depending on how big the certain feature is, we also split up into smaller parts that can be worked on independently. An example of this is when we had the feature of saving a game. This would be a very large issue on its own, called an epic in Scrum terms. Instead, what we did was we broke it down into smaller parts. Saving the game grids, saving resources, saving worker states, loading the game, and so on. These things had some dependencies on each other of course, but could be pretty much worked on standalone for the most part. We then filled up our backlog with around 75 of these issues, which gives us quite a lot of things to do for the coming sprints. Once we have gone through most of these issues, which usually takes around a month or two, we go through this process again, looking at what features have to be made and adding those to our backlog as well. One of the extra things we do then is to create a small subcategory for the most important issues that should be prioritized. We look for the 5 most critical issues and assign them their own tag. If someone doesn't know what issue to begin with, his choice can easily be narrowed down to only a few options. Once a priority issue gets picked up by someone, we instantly add a new next most important issue, so we always have around 5 issues that should be prioritized for working on next. What we also do is we make a small pool of the issues that are quick to implement. These are things where we estimate they take less than an hour to implement and may not all have the highest priority. Some examples of this are support for background music, an extra slider for master volume, language prompt upon the first launch of the game, and such. Sometimes you may not have enough time to really get into a deep programming flow for some of the core game mechanics. Being able to quickly bash out one of those smaller issues can make sure that you still keep working on a game as often as possible. As people often say, communication is key. That's why Scrum advocates the use of daily stand-ups meetings. In a normal 9-to-5 job, a stand-up is done every day in the morning. Here all the developers gather together with the project manager to discuss 3 simple things. What did they do yesterday? What are they planning on doing today? Is there anything they think could be a problem to prevent their task today from being done? This shouldn't take more than a minute or 2 for each developer, but gives everyone on the team a clear idea of what everyone else is up to. Since we don't work at a regular 9-to-5 schedule at Byte Games, we move our stand-ups into the evenings when we usually hang out in Discord and play some video games. Or even work on our own game. Don't worry about the exact time you have your stand-up, just try to have a daily moment where you can talk to the rest of your team about what is going on. Besides, it's just fun to socialize with your team members, it makes you feel less lonely and it motivates everyone to work on the game together. So now I hope we've given you some more ideas as to how you can approach your game development methodology. Perhaps you can look into getting a Kanban board of your own. Do you work together on your games with someone else? How do you work with him? And has this video perhaps given you some new ideas as to how to approach it? Let us know in the comments down below. Apart from that, if you're new here, hi, we're a group of indie developers who are documenting our progress working on our games and sharing some of our advice and insights along the way as well. If this interests you, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. It really helps us out. If you liked the video, also don't forget to hit that thumbs up button as well. That's been all from us this week. We'll see you again next week with a new video.